Hello everyone, welcome to the Lightning Ball channel. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please do so and activate the notification bell. Your support fuels my continued efforts. In the Tensura universe, the existence known as true dragons occupies the pinnacle among all magical beings, being the embodiment of the world's foundational laws. For example, Veldora, he was born as the incarnation of chaos, having control of wind, water and space. Velzard is the manifestation of the concept of deceleration and has control over time. And Velgrind is the embodiment of the concept of acceleration and possesses control over fire. And our topic today is the eldest of the true dragons and the creator god, Star King Dragon Veldanava. Despite Veldanava's sparse appearances in the Tensura light novel series, his ties with key characters are profoundly intricate. He is Milim's father, Veldora's elder brother, and the ancient hero Rudra's mentor, among others. However, such a pivotal figure had almost vanished in the world following Rimuru's arrival. What exactly occurred with Veldanava? In this episode, we'll delve into the story of the Tensura universe's creator, Star King Dragon Veldanava. Long before the formation of the world as known, when existence was shrouded in chaos without the diverse landscapes and myriad creatures, everything was in a state of void. Within this nothingness, a primordial consciousness emerged, which would later be known as Star King Dragon Veldanava. As the earliest sentient form birthed from chaos, he was engulfed by profound loneliness. To alleviate his ennui, he employed the power of the great holy spirits and used his power, imaginary collapse, to start crafting numerous worlds, each distinct in nature and governed by different laws. He created a variety of plants, animals, and magical beings, providing them with their unique habitats. He then brought forth 7 archangels from the great holy spirits of light to assist in overseeing his vast creation. Conversely, this act also led to the birth of 7 demons from the great holy spirits of darkness, marking the emergence of the world's most ancient demons, later known as the Primordial Demons. Thus, the world began to operate as Veldanava had envisioned. Various species gradually evolved, and alongside the activities of these beings and natural phenomena, previously unseen terrains like mountains, ice fields, and grasslands appeared. Despite these developments, Veldanava was plagued by an indescribable boredom. As the god of this realm, he was omniscient, able to foresee every outcome, devoid of any element of surprise. Therefore, he chose to relinquish his omniscience and omnipotence. This power was then woven into the world's fundamental rules, inscribed into its essence, giving rise to the voice of the world. This entity, akin to the mechanical voice heard by Rimuru upon reincarnation, serves as the world's administrator, overseeing skills, evolution, the reincarnation system, and all other aspects of existence. After relinquishing his omniscience and omnipotence, Veldanava was no longer the god of this world but became a true dragon. Thus, Star King Dragon Veldanava was officially born. The future, brought by the unknown and filled with uncertainty, offered Veldanava a joy he had never experienced before. The world, once monotonous, became increasingly vibrant and colorful, with the emergence of humans exciting him the most. Humans, though physically weak, possessed unmatched intelligence and creativity among species. Culinary arts, music, performance, dance, and many other novelties endlessly fascinated Veldanava. However, with intelligence came problems. The actions of humans, clashing with one another, took unexpected turns. Kinship, friendship, and love united people, forming tribes, while hate, anger, and selfishness led to conflicts between these tribes. If left unchecked, this freshly born world would embark on a path to self-destruction within a few thousand years. Naturally, Veldanava could not allow this to happen, thus, humanity needed to be managed. But how? Complete control over humans would indeed prevent disputes, but a society without the stimulation of emotions would become an equal but dystopian world devoid of free will. This was not the world Veldanava envisioned. So, he devised a plan to appoint overseers who, without overly interfering, would maintain the world's balance. At that time, a demon with striking red hair caught his attention. This was the world's first demon, Primordial Red. Guy arrogantly believed himself to be the strongest in the world and fearlessly challenged Veldanava, asserting that if Veldanava was indeed a god, he should prove his power. Despite Guy's challenge, the outcome was a resounding defeat for him. None of Guy's attacks landed, and with just a light strike from Veldanava, Guy was incapacitated on the ground. Yet, even in defeat, Guy maintained his pride, stating that Veldanava could kill him if he wished, and that he was proud to have been defeated by such an opponent. Veldanava smiled warmly in response. He was delighted to find a being in this world capable of withstanding one of his attacks, which made him even more curious about the future of this world. He then made a pact with Guy, appointing him as a mediator to protect the world and prevent humanity from walking the path to destruction. Thus, the crisis brought about by humanity was resolved, and Veldanava resumed his journey of observing humans. After a long while, a young boy caught Veldanava's attention, a naive youth with ideas completely different from his own. This child firmly believed that humanity did not need a mediator. Despite the wars between different races and nations, he argued that everything could be resolved through discussion if there was a unified nation. He aspired to become the king of this world, to eliminate poverty and inequality, to minimize sacrifices, and to create a world where everyone could smile. Veldanava laughed upon hearing the boy's dream but also became deeply interested in the future of this boy named Rudra. He took Rudra as his disciple, granting him the power to realize his lofty dream, and exchanged his ultimate skill, more fitting for a king, Lord of Justice, with Rudra's acquired ultimate skill, Lord of Oath. During his time with Rudra, Veldanava fell in love with Rudra's sister, Lucia, and she became pregnant with Veldanava's child, marking the beginning of a true familial bond. However, this is where problems arose. After Lucia became pregnant, Veldanava's powers significantly diminished, rendering him almost indistinguishable from a regular human. He even began to experience a finite lifespan, something previously non-existent for him. The occurrence of this event could essentially be attributed to two reasons. First, the sincere love between Veldanava and Lucia allowed Veldanava, who lacked reproductive capabilities, to break the rules and conceive Milim with Lucia. This meant that Milim Nava would inherit most of Veldanava's abilities, a powerful offspring who would consume a significant portion of her father's magicule and even affect his lifespan. However, personally, I believe the second reason is more critical. The second reason for Veldanava's significant loss of power was due to the rules he himself had set. According to the world's rules, the gods' love must be equal, and after Veldanava fell in love with Lucia, the system identified an error. This error led the system to perceive Lucia's existence as a threat, not only stripping Veldanava of his powers but also leading to another significant event, the death of Veldanava and his wife. The situation unfolded as follows. Rudra truly embarked on the path of unifying the world and waged wars everywhere. Tragically, shortly after Milim was born, an enemy nation launched a surprise attack on the area where Veldanava resided, resulting in the deaths of both Veldanava and Lucia. Then, due to the scheming of a certain nation, Milim's pet, which was intended to be Veldanava's reincarnation vessel, was also assassinated. Thus, Veldanava never reappeared in this world. Here concludes the tale of Veldanava. However, the story ends quite abruptly, and if we delve a bit deeper, numerous uncertainties emerge, allowing us to speculate about the connection between Veldanava and Rimuru. The first point of contention concerns Veldanava's demise. As we learn from the narrative, Veldanava became mortal after conceiving Milim with Lucia. Yet, Lucia was a being with the ultimate skill, Lord of Wisdom, a top-tier existence in an era when ultimate skills were exceedingly rare. Given that ultimate skills can only be countered by other ultimate skills, who then could have possibly killed Veldanava and Lucia at that time? Moreover, Veldanava did not reincarnate following his death, nor did he reappear in the world thereafter. We know that true dragons are truly immortal, capable of rebirth elsewhere upon death. Thus, it's plausible that Veldanava's departure was a choice of his own, as his love for Lucia could undermine the foundation of the world he created. This understanding is crucial and could lead to vastly different interpretations and actions. We might consider that Veldanava, due to his deep love for the world he created, would not return to it until a perfect solution was found. However, it was also conceivable that Veldanava had already given up on this world. Our future characters in Tensura story, Manus Michael and Spectre Lord Felway, all believed Veldanava abandoned the world. Given the deep love between Veldanava and Lucia, if they were to reincarnate, it stands to reason they would choose to do so together. Yet, such a resurrection would inevitably disrupt the world's rules. Could they have considered a unique method of reincarnation? Who comes to mind? Rimuru is undoubtedly a unique entity. In the previous episodes, we discussed how Rimuru evolved into a true dragon. However, the world's rules dictated that true dragons could not be created at will, and only Veldanava had the power to create true dragons. If a new true dragon unrelated to Veldanava were to emerge, it could potentially collapse the entire world's rules, or at the very least, the voice of the world would not stand idly by. The deaths of Veldanava and Lucia already demonstrated the voice of the world's significant influence. Even someone as powerful as Veldanava had no choice but to depart from this world. Thus, Rimuru undoubtedly harbors elements related to Veldanava that enable him to become a true dragon. In later parts of the story, we will observe Seal effortlessly ignoring rules to modify and bestow ultimate skills, and through the Soul Corridor, allows all those who pray to acquire ultimate skills. Clearly, Seal also utilized parts of the voice of the world's functions to perform tasks typically reserved for the world's administrator. In our last episode, we witnessed Veldanava's shock upon seeing Rimuru's evolution. In fact, Veldanava began to doubt Rimuru's true identity. Future narratives will introduce various powerful beings from different worlds questioning Rimuru's identity. The reason was simple: the actions of Rimuru, or rather Seal, were akin to leveraging the authority of the world's administrator. This level of authority could only be wielded by a godlike existence such as Veldanava. We plan to dedicate a future video to analyze everyone's speculations about Rimuru's identity, and the hints within the Tensura series about it. This episode focuses on the story of Veldanava himself, and the analysis of the voice of the world rule. Online, there are various discussions about the relationship between Rimuru and Veldanava, with popular theories suggesting Rimuru is Veldanava reincarnated, Rimuru is the reincarnation of Veldanava and Lucia's union, or Rimuru possesses fragments of Veldanava's soul, among others. We will not delve into these discussions in this video. Next, we delve into the concept of the dragon factor, which is the essence of why true dragons are regarded as such. However, the true nature of the dragon factor remains somewhat enigmatic. What follows is merely my personal understanding. At the dawn of creation by Veldanava, the Star King Dragon held two major authorities: omniscient and omnipotent, and immortality. The omniscience and omnipotence became known as the voice of the world, while I believe immortality forms the basis of the dragon factor. Essentially, the dragon factor is the materialization of the authority of immortality. When a soul can anchor a certain quantity of dragon factors, it can become draconic. I speculate that Seal modified Rimuru in this manner. However, Rimuru's soul itself needed to have sufficient affinity for the dragon factor. The dragon factor resists all forms of enticement, leading us back to the initial question: why does Rimuru's soul have an affinity for dragon factors? This video covers several contentious points, and I hope it spurs extensive discussion. Of course, we will dedicate a future video specifically to delve into the details of the theory that Rimuru is a reincarnation of Veldanava, including various character speculations about Rimuru's identity. Since this involves significant spoilers, we'll discuss these theories after concluding our novel reviews. Alright, that's all for this video. In our next episode, we'll shift our focus to the airship, where Rimuru's subordinates engage in a deadly battle within the 8-Gate formation against the Empire's elites. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support is greatly appreciated. See you in the next one.